We are all asking, what is AI's impact on the job market and where is this headed? And while the AI media industry complex is creating this momentum to make sure our future is AI, whether we want it or not, we hardly see this important question being answered. Where do you fit in? What role can the individual play? And how do they get there? That is what we're going to address in this video. Hey everyone, and welcome back. My name is Shujat Ahmed. I have worked behind the scenes in tech for years, myth busting for executives on everything around talent, culture, and the future work. This is part three of a four-part series where we're navigating this AI disruption on the future work and how can individuals start their career in this AI era. In this series, I've been sharing market research, data, and leadership intuition to help myth bust this confusion around AI. And more importantly, how can individuals see where they land in this era? How can they assess the impact on them? And what can they do about this? So let's go. In every video in this series, I've started with this framework, an overarching framework to help us answer how do we navigate AI disruption. And there are three questions to answer. Should I, could I, would I? In the first video, we discussed should I, looking at where the market is, where is this headed, and how much time do we think we have. And in the last video, just video 2, did the first part of could I, where I shared a framework on how you can assess the impact on your career. And now I'm going to dive deeper around how do you map out your strategy, once you assess your impact, what is going to be your career strategy. So we're going to cover two specific audiences in this who represent the two extremes. First is our mid-career technical and non-technical professionals age 40 plus. And then second, the opposite end of the spectrum are Gen Z students and early in career talent. If you're coming to this channel for the first time, as a way of introduction, this video that I do when I'm talking to you, these are weekly videos that I do. There's also a monthly podcast that I do with a co-host focused on broader topics around leadership, culture, and the future of work. I am on a mission on these videos where I'm talking directly to you to help those who are going to get left behind by companies in the AI era and help them with insights so that they can lead without blinders and use that insights to start thinking about building a career and designing a career so that they can stay relevant in this future work driven by AI. And on top of that, hope that we drive a more human future work that's focused on, yes, AI readiness that helps you get relevance and stay relevant in your career, but it's also focused on you to build that human connection and design a more purposeful life in this future work where we're headed. So with that, let's go. We talked about in our last video, how do you assess your impact and can you do something about AI? We've looked at this map and how you can go from one point to another to assess this. Today, what we're going to do is, figuring out where do you fall in this map and what do you do with it. So we're again going to look at two audiences, the mid-career professionals, age 40 plus, and Gen Z college students and early in career talent. Now, for starting off with the mid-career, right, the key focus is going to be how do you become an AI augmented expert in your domain? Whereas for the other end of the spectrum, Gen Z college students and early in career talent is how do you become an AI augmented apprentice across domains, right? And we're going to dive deeper into this. So let's start with the mid-career professionals, around the age 40 and above. You've spent about 15 to 20 years, you've built your expertise. You're now pretty much settled into a domain and you're thinking, what is the next domain or adjacent domains you're going to get into? And then maybe how do you take this forward? But you're also worried about, okay, does your domain experience still stay relevant? The company that you're in, industry you're in, I know specifically in tech, there's a lot of ageism. So are you going to stay relevant? Are you going to be even valued given this hype on AI? And maybe perhaps you're planning for a second, act in life, second adulthood in life that a lot of people hit around, 40 plus. Some hit in the early 30s as well. And think about, okay, I had this path in mind and I want to explore doing something else. But now I don't know if that's going to even be relevant. Would I even be able to work anywhere? So what do you do, right? First up, you gotta map your AI game. And how do you do that? you are what you do is you map out your workflow, right? And you remember the map that I showed in the previous framework, this map where what quadrant do you fall in? So how do you figure out where do you fall in? First, you go in and look at your role. You look at in any role, there are three separate workflows. I talked about it in the last video that where a mistake most leaders and this narrative on AI is being made is they're focused on the functional workflow, like the work someone does, right? That is on paper in a job description. But in reality, the time spent, the human capacity we're spending is not just on functional workflow. It is also on the time we spend on leadership, right? People leadership, if you're a people leader, or even if you're an individual contributor, you're guiding people, you're coaching people. And then there's a third one where we invest in ourselves individually, which is around self-development. And there's administrative stuff in there as well. And I showed research in the last video as well, how we are seeing that take software development as a extreme example because it's one of the most expensive or the expensive resource in a tech company. And in there, companies are thinking they're going to put AI and make everything go faster. At best, there's about 15% of the time is spent on actual coding that you're thinking is going to get automated. 85% is spent on other things like collaboration, self-development. So that's why whether you're technical or non-technical, first look at your role, your key responsibilities, and split that into three areas around functional work, that is on your job description officially. You can also look at companies have competency professional profiles, some call it CPPs, that is normally put up by HR. It's broad. It covers, what is expected for you to, perform better at different levels in your role. And if your company doesn't have it, use, any of the AI tools to, talk to it about your role and say, I want to figure out what are the different workflows on it. But make sure that you think about functional leadership and self-development separate. Then look at what do people value you about your contribution, right? You will know this best. What are people reached out to you? What comments have they made to you in performance reviews or on the passing, or what have they reached out to you for advice, either as peers or your seniors? And then, the game here is once you've mapped out your workflow, and again, you're mapping out the workflow here on this x-axis, right? You then look at, okay, if I'm on the extreme left, am I in the middle, am I on the extreme right? For different parts of my workflows, the stuff that I do, right? Then you look at your peers. What are the work that they do? Either people who are like adjacent to the role you're doing, not necessarily the same role. And then also look at people above you and then those above you. So two levels up as well. And I showed examples in the last video as well, where let's say whether marketing, sales, software development, and even now HR, right? Finance, operations, and you realize the world you're in, a good chunk of that workflow is likely to get automated, and there's some chunks which is highly valued where you will be the one providing human judgment. But you know how leaders think, right? They're like, well, if a lot of it gets automated, then we expect you to take on more role, be proactive. When you start looking at, okay, let's see what are the adjacent domains, what are my peers, that between my peers and I combined, we deliver an outcome for the team. If I combine all of that into one role, what does that look like? And then think about those above you and those, two levels above you as well. Because as we know, leaders have been thinking around shrinking organization structures, flattening them out. That is just not going to stop. We're going to ongoing see that happening. And what you're trying to do with this is you're mapping out how can you consolidate other roles, and if someone else is going to do it for you, where do you land if those roles will combine? And can you also be a value player where you are, hired for level X, but you can actually do way above than level X right now, playing with AI, right? So put that in front of you. Then, of course, based on the industry you're in, based on the company you're in, you'll know whether, premium or commodity. You will know based on, I'm pretty sure you would have discussed it with your peers about your paycheck and where the paycheck is going and how others are, earning. all of us compare. We always talk about this. Then, once you've done that, right, go back here, figure out then based on how your company has been thinking about AI adoption, how you've been hearing about it in the industry as well, whether it is a model where AI is just given and the human just supervises it, or is it about AI is given there so that humans can use it and you can get more creative, but use it more as a co-pilot with you. That will give you an idea around how much time horizon do you have. Also, based on the industry, you will also know that, okay, if they are really slow right now for what they do in terms of adopting change, and then for your role, it's highly valued as well. It is core part of that industry. You're on the premium side of the spectrum, then you have some time for yourself. So with that, what's the next thing you do, right? You also realize that the way we work, and this is one of the reasons why I ask about the leadership workflows and the self-development workflows. On the left, generally on paper, companies have these org charts. We know that's not how actually work gets done. Those org charts are generally set up for, like how do we make decisions? How do we hold people accountable? But in reality, we work in networks, right? It is more flat, to collaborate. It's not based just on the org chart. It's on, who do you connect with to get things done. But there's a scientific way of management called requisite organization, and it's controversial because companies find it difficult to adopt. And I think it's very relevant in this time setting because companies are looking for blaming people, saying people are not good enough to catch up in this era, and not realizing that a lot of has to do on the structure and the culture of the way the company is working. And the way requisite organization talks about it is, the higher you go, it is based on your purview, the level of decision making, the uncertainty, and the time horizon someone's looking at. So it's based on scope and scale. That's higher up you go in an organization. That's how structure should be. And it should not just be because you spent enough time and you were just senior enough and you were put in there. So I think understanding that is key because that will give you an idea for when I look across levels, they are going to get flattened out. What is the actual value that if we combine levels and we combine horizontal roles as well on this map, what does that look like? What does that look like on this level? It is key because the way we work is actually in a network way. That is the future of work as well, where you're gonna start seeing more flatter organizations and even more flexible organizations as well. So once you have all of this, you have an idea of where do you fall in this map, right? In this game, where do you fall, and what is the game for you? Where do you want to go, right? What does that mean in these quadrants? And then what you do next is you then think about becoming opportunistically lazy, right? What does that mean? So every role I've taken, as I've evolved in my career and I've made multiple transitions at a very unique career profile. What helped me was realizing that I need to job craft my future. So every job I've taken in very quickly, I've said, okay, I've understood the job. I've got to make sure that whatever is the front office, whatever is expected for me to deliver, I quickly dive in and try to understand that can I get 80% of that automated? And automated, I don't think just about AI, just can I get it so I can improve it so much that it can just happen, fast enough. I put processes around it, I put data around it. And what that does is it then gives me the right to be opportunistically lazy. It helps me buy time. It's not about cheating. It is about, thinking about, it gives me space to then think about the frontier, go explore, go experiment. There's a very famous framework used for strategy. I think BCG came up with it, exploration versus exploitation. What it means is that for companies to consistently innovate, they look at their core business and see in those markets how much can they optimize, which is what they call exploitation. I know it's not the best word choice, but what you do is you also spend time exploring on the frontiers because innovation happens in the frontiers. And how I applied that on my career was like, all right, any role that I take, I'm going to try to get it to 80% of my current work secretly so fast that when people who come to me and realize, why he is sitting on this role and what is his team's role, that front office, we deliver it fast, good and we get better every time. We make it better as well. So not just, how it was done a year ago, a year later, people will be like, wow, that's high quality. These folks just keep adding more complexity and more value add for the end customer. But on the back end, like, all right, operationally, I've made it so fast that I now have built space for me to go explore other areas and if I deliver value there and bring it to the front office as well, I'm constantly job crafting for myself. I'm defining my role. And that in that way I've acted as an entrepreneur. And that is what I would suggest. Create space for yourself. The benefit with using AI is that once you see where you are in that map, you also see things that are, can be automated right now. So if you're going back to this map, let's say you mapped out your workflows and you realize a good portion can be automated yet, but it's not happening. And how do you stand out against your peers, right? And also stand up around people perceiving your superiors as well, that wow, this person brings a lot of value, is uh you don't need to go out and say, hey, this is how I'm automating. You just end up doing a lot of stuff fast and you deliver more volume. They're like, this person already delivers a lot of great work. That's amazing, right? Because again, this is, remember, perceived value. And in the back end, you're figuring out time to say, all right, how do I explore and build my perspective when AI gets better and starts keeping into the left side, a left and top side of this map? So then you start sharing, okay, slowly, like, here's what I'm deploying, here's where I've deployed AI. And then you become the person recognized for, wow, this person actually gets to know AI while all of us are, pretending or, struggling to figure out what do we do with AI. So you're starting to increase your value, you're starting to increase your perceived business value as well, because right now there's a lot of pressure on AI adoption. So what you're doing with, when we say opportunistically lazy, is you're delivering what is expected for you and you're wowing people with the way you're doing it by automating a lot of this, and then selectively sharing how you're automating so you can present and stand out that you have this skill with AI, while you know that what you're presenting, this is like tip of the iceberg. Like, you've learned enough, this is easy enough. And then figure out, okay, the more complex stuff where you do require human judgment, how much of it can, if AI advances, can be done? And can I experiment with it right now so that I have a perspective ahead of how AI evolves? And that's where the third part comes in, where learn to build discernment with AI for your craft. And that requires that once you create this space and time, play with AI, hone your craft so you can own your craft. Think about those frontiers and develop, where you want to be on this map. So for instance, if, let's say, we talked about sales last time, and if you know that you're the way qualifying leads, analysis, market research, that can be automated or semi-automated. And your value is to be with clients, you're getting the close done, hearing them, listening to them, where, what is it that they actually need, what pain points can you solve, and what is value for them. Start exploring that, okay, what if this human conversation that you're having, what even understanding value, what if it doesn't require person to person interaction and you can get value upfront from them? What if that happens? And for that, you're like, okay, or the kind of conversations you're having, there's a difficulty in getting the close. What else would make you better at that close? Start playing with AI and seeing, okay, what role could AI play in this to even get you better in this craft of you conversing with humans to close out the deal, right? Same thing. So let's say you're not client facing, let's say you are internal facing, and you work in cross functional teams, and the value you bring in is the additional judgment from your domain. And start thinking about, okay, well, the work that I provide for my function, yes, I've automated it. What about other domains? You think of yourself as like a mini MBA, right? Where there's other domains that you want to learn that you're partnering with ongoing, and start playing with AI to building your perspective so that and others see that, wow, this person certainly is able to cross pollinate across domains, and they really understand us, right? And they're acting as if they work in this domain. What you're doing is you're playing with AI, right? You're playing with AI to learn yourself, build your perspective, simulating. You're in a very private coach. You're basically making mistakes, learning and making mistakes, while it being completely psychologically safe. And then from that learning, go into meetings, go into discussions where you're bringing that perspective and you're sharpening your perspective now. And you see that wow factor when you talk to people about this. All right. When you learn to then also discern that where is AI getting this right and where it's wrong. And what that does is then when the discussions start happening in team meetings around AI and you know what AI could do, and as your bosses are thinking about AI, you are able to create a good perspective around, okay, I've used it. I see where it's good right now and where it struggles and also where it could be. And that perspective is going to earn the right to stay relevant, where people see you as someone who's like, oh, wow, this person is a learning animal. They've already got on their domain, they're nailing it, and they're spending time on being ahead of this. In all our careers, we've all if you've not heard it, but in tech, I know, in software engineering, but even other functions as well, there's this myth about the 10xers, right? Leaders always have this in their mind, an idea that few employees are the ones who really carry the weight for everyone else. And they're sort of the 10xers. They sometimes think they're the people who do a lot more work, or they do it really fast. And then there's others where like, okay, they nail this complex problem that others can. You become that by becoming opportunistically lazy, getting that space, going out in the frontiers, learning, playing with AI, also playing with AI to understand, okay, where you should trust this and where you should not, and come back and share that perspective. And when you share that, you become the person, the ideal profile that they are hoping to get in the future, and that they're also getting pressurized by people above them that, hey, we need to do that, we need to scale. You're already becoming the person that they hope they would want to get. With that, uh, the last part, think like a sci-fi futurist storyteller. Uh, for those who've read this, right, these are the Foundation book series, or I highly recommend a amazing show on Apple TV Plus. But if you've not, right, you're not a sci-fi fan, this is basically the whole crust of this series is they are far future, right? They are humans and other races, and they've looked at something called psychohistory, and they're looking at math, psychology combined, and they are looking at, okay, where all the different scenarios are going to play out and what's going to be the end of different civilizations and humans, and how do we create a new foundation for humans to thrive. And I would say, think like a sci-fi futurist storyteller. If you've figured out where the AI game is, where do you lie, and how much time do you have, and how much luxury do you have of staying premium and being someone who's valued for their judgment. You've built out the time to go further, stretch on the frontiers. You've learned how to play with AI and how to, for your domain, how to make judgments on where AI is good and where it's not, and how to even critique its work. And now start thinking like a sci-fi futurist storyteller. Play out different scenarios. What if AI tackles, the thing that we think it can't tackle? What if it does? What would you do? Right? And how would you be creating value at that point? What would that mean? That is how you should be thinking about this, because not only for, let's say, if you plan to retire in the next 10, 20 years, it'll keep you relevant for the next 10, 20 years, but it'll also build new muscle, a new life for you for whatever you want to do outside of that, maybe outside of corporate. Right now, may want to leave corporate. If you're going to go on your own, just like I did, this is key. This is going to be key because it's going to build that human judgment and perspective that's going to make you untouchable. All right. So with that, now to our Gen Z students and early in career talent. For the mid-career professionals, age 40 plus, we said become an AI-augmented expert in your domain. But what about Gen Z college students and early in career talent? You haven't had the same career trajectory for those who are further experienced, further down their career, but you all have life opportunities and life experiences, right? You're also people graduating or graduated in some of the most unprecedented times. Think about, what has happened in the world in the last 5 years. Pandemic, you've learned remotely. Then there's been there's a well-being pandemic that's still going on. Then you think about wars have happened and macroeconomic situation and recession, and now you don't have jobs and stuff. So how do you how do you stand out? Well, first, remember that you have those unique experiences, and you also represent about, in a few years, you're going to be 1/3 of the workforce, 1/3 of the of the buyers in the market as well, and consumers. You understand your market really well, so don't let that be discounted. what do you do? So my mantra is going to be become an AI augmented apprentice across domains, because you probably have started working and you're in one discipline or you're graduating with a major. All of that sort of hunkers you down into one area. What's going to be required is for you to become sort of like a Swiss Army knife, become someone who's good at a lot of domains and be able to do that fast. So what do we do, right? So I think the four things I'm gonna cover all together, and I'm intentionally keeping you right next to the mid-career 40 plus, because I think this is important and this intergenerational wisdom sharing is going to be key for you. First, we're going to talk about how do you map out your AI game, given that you're not an expert in one domain right now, maybe, but what is your AI game to become that apprentice? Make sure that you go wisdom crazy. You seek out, experts in domains like the 40 plus folks, and get guidance from them and learn. Focus on learning more than earning right now. And then lastly, build your portfolio that helps you become untouchable. So let me walk you through that. So in here, I would say take this framework. Think about a field that you think you want to get into and start, using AI to learn about that field. And again, ask AI, look at job descriptions out there and that, that are sort of like ideal roles that you think that you want to get. Look at different blogs, right? But ask AI, ChatGPT, Claude, Perplexity, whatever you want to use, and say, all right, I want to map out the different workflows, not just from a functional perspective, but also, what do people do when they go into leadership positions? What do they do when for their own self-development? And map those out on this. And, use that perspective. That will give you sort of the starting point, an idea where the gaps are, and build your perspective there that, okay, where do I want to play here? Right? Once I put all of this on this map, and then ask AI to help you build different use cases and say, all right, what are different possible scenarios that could be happening in different industries, different types of companies? So you sort of like strengthen your mapping using this framework. Then go reach out to people who are further down in their career. I would say look at, again, the 40 plus who've, expert at domains, they've had tons of life experience. Don't reach out to them asking for a job. Ask them for, here's a perspective that I'm building around AI. So they will appreciate that, number one. Number two, I want to just get your perspective and guidance. And, a lot of time young people ask me that, okay, how do I reach out when I have nothing to offer? You have tons to offer. And especially right now with AI, if you've used AI to play with this and put it on a map, when you reach out to someone and you're saying, hey, I've used AI to learn, I've also done my own homework as well. I've looked at your profile and I want to understand, make sure that I validate from humans who've had this sort of judgment because they've had actual experience versus AI. They will also start things like, wow, this person is good at AI. And then what you could do is you can offer them to say, hey, listen, if you're also thinking about your map, what I can help you is on helping you figure out different AI tools and help you build it out for your domain as well. So there's something that you can offer. But reach out to them, ask them for guidance. And once you ask for them guidance, go back to your map. And what you then want to do is, you want to find industries in this job market where it's difficult to get jobs, especially for early in career talent, is find industries where AI adoption is slower, and that you will get that guidance from as you reach out to people and ask them for guidance, but also searching online with AI. And where you see this is slower, where they can't afford top talent, but you can go there and learn the domain, have the experience of playing with that domain and practice. Take, for example, nonprofits who are often eager for help, for marketing, for go to market, for even, building out their operations. And they can't afford a lot of talent. But if you've used AI to learn about that domain, reach out to them to give exceptional value. Also, you're able to deploy AI with them as well. There's fewer guardrails there. You won't be treated as a commodity there, by the way. You'll be fueling their mission, impactful, and you're getting to practice and build your domain expertise. Because the key thing is the what you build as a human for you to become untouchable in this AI game is, industry experience, knowledge, right? The networks that you know, and sometimes on the field experience. Now, there's only a certain time when you can get it. It's very difficult to go back and get it again. So for you early in your career, go on the field in these industries where AI has not hit them yet as yet. I will go there. I have a perspective on using AI. They also are thinking about it, but they know it's going to happen very slow for them. When you go there, you learn the domain because they still are not using AI. You slowly put AI in. There's some low hanging fruit. You get to learn both the domain and playing with AI. You get valued for it. And then by the time AI catches up in those industries, guess what? You will be the premium value and you will be the person who would have already placed themselves on the more augmentation part of the spectrum as untouchable. With that, again, when we go back, what you're then focusing on is don't worry about high paying jobs, get any job. As long as that job helps you to learn the domain, it helps you to either learn from other people, other mentors there, and it helps you to also make some experiments where you can use AI, and they're open to AI for you to experiment in that domain, right? You will be then known for someone who's delivering exceptional value. um you know the last part I would say is, all the information available, all the knowledge is online, which means it's in these AI tools as well. Don't just gather knowledge. Sure, you can do that asynchronously using AI. Reach out for guidance, but now start building your portfolio of use cases. Right, what does that mean? Pick a problem you're truly passionate about. Like, think about if you could transform this domain based on your life experience, based on what you've learned, gather knowledge online, talk to, experts. Wouldn't that be amazing? Like, if your legacy in this world was that you transform this domain, this is your pet peeve. And then get a fresh perspective using AI. There may be some experts that you look up to, and ask AI to emulate those experts in that domain. And take this map that I gave you, right? Put it in there and ask it to play devil's advocate. And what that does is it gives you a very good idea of sort of, blue ocean strategy. Look it up. Green fields, where these are problems that could be solved with AI. And you're getting this perspective through AI that's emulating these experts. And then you're going out and talking to actual experts who'd be like, wow, this person's way ahead of their age, of their maturity, and they're passionate about a domain. They really want to build an impact. I want to be a cheerleader for their story. I want to help them. I want to open up my network. People will engage with that, right? Once you ask for this perspective. And again, all of this, what I'm putting out there, is free intentionally so that I just steal away, apply it. And that will help you. But the key part will end for both the mid-career 40 plus and the Gen Z college students and early career talent. You see this white line is this chasm, is this intergenerational wisdom. The more we can build this, it helps both audiences. You are going to be gold in this. Because remember, for the 40 plus as well, long term, majority of the market and the people who are going to bring change in this world, one of these younger folks. But they're frustrated. They may be good with digital, but they may not be great with domain experience and life experience. And if you want to, stay relevant as well for the markets that others may not be noticing right now or might be sort of focused on, you can help them and build a market for your services as well, and the other way around as well. That rather for the Gen Z college students and early in career talent trying to be at the mercy of those sitting in jobs, gatekeeping jobs to give you jobs, go help out those who are sort of like further ahead in their career, mid career to late career. And if you can help them stay relevant by partnering with them, you're building a market for yourself, and these without having the gatekeepers that sit in corporate right now. With that, that's it for today. Remember, whether you're mid career or just starting out, the key is continuous learning, being a learning and unlearning animal, understanding AI as a game, make sure that you're strategic, opportunistically lazy, and having a proactive approach to your career with AI. We'll see you in the next part of this video series, which is part 4, where we're going to cover more on, okay, so how do I take the first step? And can I take even the first step, which is the would I part? And do I really want to do this based on once I've mapped out everything? Do I want to play this role? Is this for me? Is this fulfilling for me? Is this purposeful for me? With that, again, make sure you like, subscribe, leave comments, because that's the only signal that tells me if what I'm doing, should I continue building this and what should I need to change. Also share comments around if I should dive deeper on certain elements, give tutorials around, how do you actually tactically do this. So please send them my way. With that, thank you and have a great one.